Hello and good morning. I'm Brendan Begley, attorney and partner with McIntyre Elder Law, and I'm joined by Jordan McIntyre. Hey, Jordan.
Hey guys.
All right, and today we want to talk about the risk factors that are presented with, anyone who's aging. They have a risk of cognitive decline, and that is accompanied by a risk of exploitation. So today on this episode of the Elder Law Report, we want to talk about the opportunity that folks have to exploit those who may have diminished capacity. And, the term that's thrown around with respect to this is elder abuse. And that's a very important topic, something that we run into all the time, something that we want to battle all the time. And it may come in forms that look innocuous or are counterintuitive, but certainly present themselves. So let's talk about that, Jordan. So what is elder abuse, and what are the risk factors that you look for to determine whether or not there's a good opportunity to have elder abuse like presented in a certain situation?
So legally, elder abuse refers to any intentional or negligent act that causes harm or risk of harm to an older adult. This typically will happen at home, or it can happen in a care facility, or even at the hands of trusted individuals like family members or caregivers. And it's not just physical abuse, it can typically be financial exploitation. And I think that's one of the fastest growing forms of elder abuse. You have scammers, unethical caregivers, or family members stealing money. In our profession, right, we sue people for misusing powers of attorneys or even pressuring somebody into signing a deed when they didn't really want to sign that deed over or weren't in the right frame of mind to sign that deed. And I think there's some key risk factors that will make an elderly individual, more vulnerable. You'll start to have cognitive decline, right? People get diagnosed with dementia or Alzheimer's, and then they have impaired judgment. So you're easier to manipulate. The
Yeah, I'll
elderly,
see, situations where they're like, well, mom was given all this money to, son. I mean, she willingly, signed the checks, or she willingly, went to the bank and got this money out. Can there still be elder abuse if the person is willingly transferring their funds or their property?
yes, because just because you did something, that didn't mean that you were legally in the frame of mind to do that, right? Or understood, I guess, the intent of the transfer, the disposition of your property, or I guess we call the nature of the bounty, right? What you're transferring.
Yeah. I mean, there's time and time again, you can have an individual who is transferring assets, but maybe not aware of what assets they own, what it means, the fact that they may be depriving other individuals of an inheritance, and how much, another thing is it can be hard with someone with diminished capacity to keep track of how much they've given over time as well.
Yeah, and when we do litigation, we have to pull those bank records and see kind of what stands out, right? What transactions don't align with what someone would typically do, especially with
Right.
those powers of attorneys.
Yeah, like there's a lot of ATM withdrawals. What's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah. What
I
other risk factors are there?
think you have isolation, right? You might have mom or dad who was on their own, and then they have a child kind of move in with them. And you think that they're their primary caretaker, but they're really abusing them and taking advantage of them. And no one's really aware of it because they're isolated. When elderly individuals start to have physical disabilities and they're reliant and isolated, I guess physical disabilities would be another risk factor. Any type of history of family conflict, pre-existing strained relationships could lead to financial or emotional abuse. So that's what stands out to me.
Yeah. The isolation is a big one, especially if they have diminished capacity, especially if they've lost a loved one and that has resulted in their isolation. People get lonely. And they're more susceptible to exploitation just to keep people around. That's one of the risk factors, and whether or not there was undue influence on a will or something like that, because you have people who are lonely and they have somebody enter their lives, and that person may not have the best of intentions, and they're providing companionship, but they have ulterior motives, and that can be an incredibly difficult situation, especially because sometimes the individual subject to exploitation knows that that person has ulterior motives, but is so lonely and isolated that they want to keep that person in their lives because they have some sort of dependence on them. And sometimes they'll develop an actual dependence where they need that person as a pseudo caretaker, and they basically have an agreement that if I keep you in the will or in my estate plan, you won't leave me, and I won't have anybody to help bring me places or bring me groceries, things like that. So that can be a really tough situation. Another one that I've seen quite a bit that is counterintuitive sometimes, when you at first glance you think that this is in the best interest of somebody with diminished capacity. And so it makes it that much more insidious, is the abuse of the system. Okay. That's another one that we see quite a bit. So for example, let's say that you have a situation where there's a power of attorney in place. Mom makes daughter power of attorney, and daughter is doing a relatively good job as power of attorney, and is providing for everything that mom needs, is taking care of usual expenses, maybe had to pay themselves back for a couple things, maybe had to make a couple big purchases for mom, and then brother steps in and doesn't like what he sees the billing statement. He's like, my God, you paid X amount of dollars for this for mom's house that you're going to inherit, so I think you did it for yourself, that sort of thing. And so because now brother, he wants control, he's trying to find any reason why daughter's not doing a good job, so he goes after guardianship of mom. And that process can be a hugely beneficial process if guardianship is necessary. But if there's power of attorney in place, there's an alternative, what is referred to in the law as the least restrictive alternative, then that should be pursued first. And if there is a viable alternative to guardianship, then it's important to have that relationship maintained in place instead of going the extreme route of having that individual, like mom in this situation, adjudicated incompetent, having an individual appointed to make her decisions for her. So brother, it may appear that he's acting in mother's best interest, but really mother made that choice before she developed any cognitive issues, before she lacked capacity. She made the decision to make daughter her power of attorney, and daughter's acting that way. And so the system can certainly be abused to try to maintain control over the assets of somebody, or gain control over the assets of somebody with diminished capacity too. And that can be a scary thing, that the system is built in a way that can happen. But people need to be aware of that, and that's why it's incredibly important to do estate planning in the first place. So that leads me to the next thing, is what can be done to help not only prevent but rectify the opportunity for elder abuse.
Well, the system will sometimes step in, right? You'll have adult protective services, if they have any suspicion of wrongdoing, can step in and initiate these guardianship proceedings. We can help people, right, initiate guardianships, file civil lawsuits, right? We can sue someone for financial exploitation, breach of fiduciary duty, fraud, or negligence. I guess additionally, with deeds that are signed over improperly, or any type of improper estate planning, we can do declaratory judgment actions, right? To get them set aside.
Gotcha. So to rectify some of these opportunities for elder abuse, you can get in and actually use the system. So there's, protections built in. You have the Department of Health and Human Services, adult protective services who can do an investigation. Certainly there's, also the police, they can do an investigation if there was actual crime that was committed. And then, civilly, we can seek to rectify whatever happened. So if it was a taking of assets, like a conversion of money, we can sue to get that back. If it was legal documents that were executed transferring assets, then we can sue to set those aside. Definitely through the litigation process, we can rectify those situations. Now, what can we do to also prevent that from happening in the first place?
Right, setting up the general and durable power of attorney really as a protective legal measure for yourself with someone you trust, right? Having an agent you trust who will monitor you, monitor financial accounts, and try to help you if you do get to a place where you have more difficulty making decisions and preventing yourself from any type of elder abuse, right? Appoint a child or someone you trust to be your agent under the general durable power of attorney. And that will really be a protective legal measure that we can help you with to avoid these types of situations.
That's going to also make sure that someone can sue on your behalf if they see, some type of exploitation happening. One of the difficulties you have is, if someone steps in and exploits mom, who can sue if mom cannot protect herself? Well, without someone appointed under a general durable power of attorney, that another individual would not have the legal standing, the primary constitutional requisite to bring a lawsuit and on behalf of mom, because essential constitutional principle of bringing a lawsuit is the lawsuit has to be brought in the name of the real party in interest. So the real party in interest, if mom gets scammed or if mom gets exploited, is mom. And so without having a general durable power of attorney, there's no other way to step into mom's shoes and act on her behalf legally without getting guardianship. Again, an extreme measure. So you're right, Jordan, having that general durable power of attorney in place is not only going to ensure that you've named somebody who can monitor what's going on, has the power to step in and look at bank statements and ask questions, but also has the legal authority to hold someone who may exploit mom accountable. There are many things that can be done in the estate planning stage to prevent exploitation and abuse down the road. That is your best, first line of defense, is putting a good estate plan in place and communicating with your loved ones on what your wishes are, making that known. So if that, ever changes based off of somebody's influence, folks know that that is not your choice, and that's the result of someone coming in and having that undue influence on you. So if you have questions about how to protect yourself from things like this, if you have a family member that has gone through any type of exploitation or elder abuse and you want to seek some way to rectify that, we can help through our litigation process. And if you want to prevent yourself or a loved one from ever facing something like this in the future, we can also help with that through estate planning. Jordan, thank you. This has been the Elder Law Report. Okay, it's been very informative. If you have questions about how this works, you can give us a call, 704-259-7040, or you can visit our website, mcelderlaw.com, to schedule your free consultation today. Thanks again, Jordan.
See you guys.
Bye.